I think this is one of our most exciting programs we've ever had. You've got some great panelists over here, but before we get started, I would like for Glenn Gould with Dry Cleaning Connection to come up and give us the invocation. He is also our presenting sponsor, so he's going to weave the two together.
Am I using the mic, or am I doing I'll use the mic, of course. Would you join me in prayer, please? Father God, thank you for this beautiful day, for this beautiful facility that we get to enjoy, and for the wonderful food that you have presented for us for the nourishment of our bodies. Lord, as we go through today and we hear these great stories about our community that perhaps we hadn't known, we just pray that you would enlighten us to the opportunities that they present for us to enjoy our area and living, but also to prosper our businesses because these opportunities are here. And Lord, as we leave here today, I would pray that we would just leave here enriched, encouraged, and that we would be full of your love. In your name we pray. Amen. So yeah, I am, she says I'm the presenting sponsor. Well, Dry Cleaning Connection is a company. We have 15 employees, so I represent a lot of folks. We have one of our employees with us here today, Charlotte Newsom, who came to work for us 11 years ago to help us out over the summer and never left. So we're very grateful for that. And for those of you who don't know, Charlotte is also Valerie Ward's daughter, so we were very fortunate to have the relationship. I've been involved in this chamber actually since 2009, and before I even worked here, we did some presentations here, and so the chamber here is one of those unique chambers that always finds a way to do new and interesting things that bring people together and make us realize just what a wonderful community. And partially because the chamber exists, we are a wonderful community. So we just are happy to have the opportunity to be together with you today. We hope that this program will be wonderful for you, that you'll find ways that you'd never thought of to engage with tourism in our great community, and that you'll also find ways to engage with the chamber. So thanks so much for the opportunity. See you later.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Candace Boothby, and I'm the president and CEO here at the Chamber. And I have to say thank you, Glenn. I had the pleasure of working with him at the Chamber for about 5 years. He was our vice president. But if you're looking for a motivational speaker for your employees or organizations that you may be a part of, Glenn is a great motivational speaker, so I would highly recommend him. So I am not going to delay this program anymore. We are super excited. This is a very special program, and I'm going to invite the president of our Explore Newnan-Coweta Destination Marketing Organization, Heather Daniel, to come to the podium. I have the pleasure of serving on, of serving on Heather's board, and I was a part of the process when we started the Explore Newnan-Coweta organization. It's the first destination marketing organization here in Coweta, and I gotta tell you, it takes a special skill set to create and run and build a startup organization, and Heather has an amazing skill set, and she's done a wonderful job, and I think next week is your second anniversary in this role.
Yes.
I keep up with people's anniversaries, just I think it's July 2nd maybe. So anyway, help me again welcome Heather Daniel, and we'll get started.
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you, Candace. All right. Oh, goodness. I do not like microphones, so I apologize. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here and taking time out of what I'm sure are extremely busy schedules to learn more about not only the great outdoors, but also what our local partners and stakeholders are doing within their own organizations and how they are the lifeblood of this community. We hope that today's talk lets you walk away informed, invigorated, and maybe even a little bit enlightened. I'm very excited to speak with these amazing people today and hear what they are doing as not only subject matter experts in their areas, but how they are creating an economic impact, bettering our environment and our quality of life here within the county. So I don't know if all of you know this, but agriculture is actually the oldest and the largest industry in the state of Georgia. It produces over $74 billion annually and employs 1 in 7 Georgians. And also, tourism being one of the largest industries as well, it's no wonder that agritourism has become part of our everyday vernacular. Or for some of you in this room, you may wonder what the heck agritourism is and why it's important to you. Did anyone here ever take a school field trip to the Agorama in Tifton growing up? Anybody? Wow, not that many. Okay, we're old. Well, I'm pretty sure I have some horrid pictures of myself in a bonnet and like a Little House on the Prairie dress and like my mom's photo album somewhere. But that was sort of a staple if you grew up in Georgia to go to the Agorama as a school field trip. But that is one example of agritourism. In addition to that, we'll delve a little bit more into it, but it's everything from farm tours and corn mazes to U-Picks and wineries, or in our case, breweries and distilleries. In addition to that, outdoor recreation has also been a rapidly growing subset in tourism for the past several years. The incident in 2020, which shall not be named, vastly changed that game as well. Recreation expenditures have seen a 97% increase since 2019, mainly because outdoor was pretty much the only recreation we could do for a while. Health and wellness is also a growing subset, as well as sustainability. Travelers really want to know more about not only where destinations are going and how they're doing their best to be good stewards of the environment, but also what are local partners doing, what are stakeholders doing, and the story behind that. So today's chat will be more high level, but we're hoping that it spurs conversations amongst you with these local partners and how you can get more involved and how you can contribute. And so with that, I want to introduce our first panelist before everybody else comes up, Mr. Chris Doan. So I'll give his quick bio. Chris's earliest memory of enjoying the Georgia outdoors was camping with his dad at FDR State Park when he was just 3 years old. He currently serves as president of MTB Atlanta, an organization that advocates for access to green space and shared use trails for all users in the metro Atlanta area. The organization currently works with 28 different parks and manages more than 150 miles of trails. Most recently, he's been involved with the Georgia Outdoor Recreation Coalition, a state advocacy group dedicated to the formation of a Georgia Office of Outdoor Recreation. His firm Crescent actually acted as the brand strategist for the group. And on a local level, Chris is actively involved in advocating for more outdoor green space for Cowetans. His organization has played a role in a number of projects, including Browns Mill, Chat Bend, and Canongate Nature Preserve. He sees outdoor recreation as a source of tourism and economic impact for Coweta and actively promotes the area as a great community to stage cycling events like the Tour of Coweta, Georgia Police and Fire Games, Georgia State Mountain Bike Championships, which were just here this past weekend, and more. And if that wasn't enough, he's also my board chair. Thank you, Chris, and the stage is yours.
Oh, sorry. Good morning or good afternoon, or somewhere in between. I have a map. A lot of you should have a copy of this on your table that was a exercise about 4 years ago to actually document outdoor recreation opportunities in Coweta County. The state that kind of does their own thing, and the county does what they do, and the city does it, and they don't all get together and ever really talk about all their different outdoor recreation opportunities. But I tease you with that, and I'm going to come back to that here in a minute. But that was something that Bike Coweta, which is one of the organizations I work with, that was something that was important to us, was to document all the opportunities in Coweta County where you can go out and either go hiking, biking, perhaps kayaking on the Chattahoochee River or at B.T. Brown Reservoir, that sort of thing. So I'll come back to that here in a second. But this exercise was not only an effort to document the opportunities for us locals, but part of the goal of Bike Coweta, part of the mission is not only to look for opportunities to conserve green space and provide more, not only biking, but hiking and other opportunities to get out and get healthy, so to speak. But putting together the map was also, or an inventory of all the opportunities in the area, was also an opportunity for us to say, okay, what do we have on the shelf that we could market as a facility or a venue to then encourage folks from out of town to come and begin coming to Coweta County to, what could we use as a something to encourage tourism in this case? And obviously our big anchor on the west side of the county, I'm not going to steal their thunder, but our big 2,900 acre anchor on the west side of the county, if you have not been there. How many people have been to Chattahoochee Bend State Park? All right, almost all of you. So our big anchor on the west side of the county is Chattahoochee Bend State Park, and that's not only somewhere for us locals to go. No, it's not over in Alabama somewhere. It's actually still in Coweta County. But that's a huge opportunity to have folks from out of town come and visit. So in line with that, part of our mission of actually by Coweta of encouraging cycling tourism and health and wellness type tourism and that sort of thing, we started looking to market the community and to get the word out about the community as being a great place to bring your bicycle and stage an event. And 3 years ago, the Newnan Rotary Club, as well as Bike Coweta and a couple other organizations, were looking to get together to stage basically a century ride. And at the time that we formed or we started the tour of Coweta, we're 3 years down the road, and the vision of that ultimately was to actually have a series of events that all fire off over a weekend in April and call it the Rock and Road Festival. And we were able to have our third annual Rock and Road Festival this past April. We had the Tour of Coweta, which is a significant fundraiser not only for the Rotary Club, but for a lot of local nonprofits through their grant program. We were able to do the first ever Rock and Road Criterium. We had the partners like the Coweta Foundation that partnered up to do a soapbox derby. We had mountain bike races. We had a full weekend of events that attracted, now it was about 25% of the participants were from inside the county, and the other 75% were from outside the county, both local and from other states. So we were able to document that weekend with a video, which we're going to look at real quickly here, that is kind of highlights the Rock and Road Festival, and I'm going to make one or two other little notes, and then we'll move on here. So this video is actually documenting the entire weekend and the Rock and Road Festival that was engineered, again, not only to be a local event, but also to be a tourism event to get folks from all over, at least all over the Southeast, to come to Newnan and spend a weekend with us. So. So I hadn't seen that in about a month or about 5 weeks, and yeah, I get goosebumps when I see that after a few weeks of a layoff. And but the point of that being, and you saw, it's difficult to capture everything that happened in that weekend in basically a 2-minute video, 2 or 3 minute video. But you saw the scope and the scale of that, and that was something that we feel like not only was something new for our community, a new source of economic impact for our community, a new tourism opportunity for our community, but it brought a lot of different folks together to pull that off. I can't thank all of them. If last year we did a full-page ad in the Times Herald thanking everybody, we'll probably have to do a double truck this year. It's so big. But it was, not only did we accomplish our goal of actually designing a weekend that got a lot of folks to town, but we and also they also left $1 behind when they left. But we really see it as an opportunity to bring our community together, to hang our hat on something that's unique, that's a little bit different than what every other community is doing from a tourism point of view. So I'm going to mention one other thing about that. I have to. We're in our 3rd year on the Rock and Road Festival. Each year we've actually added new elements, new partners to it, that sort of thing. We use different tools. We know how many participants there were for 3 or 4 different events. There were somewhere around 800 different participants for the 3 or 4 different events. Now those folks are showing up. If they take off at 8 a.m. from downtown Newnan on a bicycle, if the majority of them are not showing up at 8 a.m. to take off from downtown Newnan, they're showing up the night before and staying somewhere and dining somewhere and then hanging around for music afterwards and that sort of thing. And that was the part of the design of it, is getting folks to come to our community and want to hang out for the entire weekend. You guys all know the communities you like to go to, the cities, the towns in Georgia and outside that you say, oh, well, let's go to Blue Ridge for the weekend. Seldom do you go up there for 2 hours and then come back home. So that was sort of the goal of it. But we use a number of tools to actually use the number of people that actually come to the community, how much they paid for their registration, the sort of the orientation of the events and that sort of thing. I mentioned 800 participants, and then you add on several other 1,000 folks that actually enjoyed our community that weekend, that were our guests, that were tourism to our community. The estimated economic impact is somewhere around $235,000 for that weekend. We had people participate from as far as Michigan in the Tour Coweta. We had, what I like about it is if I had a 3 or 4 or a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 16-year-old, I don't want them on the road riding their bicycle, but that's why we also have an event out at Browns Mill where we can get them on a mountain bike trail and keep them safe, but have a diversity of events for everybody. So we had participants in that weekend from 3 years old to 80 plus. And I mentioned as far as, we had participants that weekend that came in specifically for the weekend from about 13 different states. So, but I mentioned all of this to say, that's an example where we've created a product out of the inventory that we have on site, and we've actually been able to create something that has created some impact and demonstrate that, yeah, we are a tourism community. And we've been able to do that with not a huge amount of investment on the front end either. I mean, we're using trails and roads in that case, but we are only scratching the surface on the type of and the amount of impact we can make through having Explore Newnan-Coweta and taking advantage of the agritourism and the Georgia State parks and the opportunities we have in hand. We haven't even scratched the surface about marketing those, and that's an exciting time to be in Coweta. So I thank you guys for the opportunity to show the video, to talk about that. Go ahead and mark your calendar. April 13th and 14th of 2024 will be the next Rock and Road Festival, Tour Coweta, Rock and Road Criterium. I'll make one other note about that. I was sitting in the coffee shop Leaf and Bean Coffee Shop one morning about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I had this young man. He knew me, or he saw I had a bicycle sitting on the sidewalk or something. And he walks up to me. He says, "Hey, did you go to that Rock and Road Festival thing last weekend?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was kind of hanging around." He's like, "We had just moved to the community 2 weeks before that from wherever it was out of state." And he's like, "I can't believe that the city of Newnan actually had something like that." And I was like, "I am so excited for your enthusiasm." He didn't really care so much about riding a bicycle, but it was the festival experience, the doing something different, the atmosphere of it, and so many different pieces and parts of it. And it was so excited to hear almost like a blind survey just walk up to me that day and say, "Wow, that was so awesome." But we know we live in an awesome community. We know we have so many things going for us. It is not surprising that the ensemble and the concert of so many different stakeholders in that came together to make an event that people are still talking about today. And I thank every one of you. Some of you in the crowd were involved with that too. I thank so many of you for actually joining us on that. And we look forward to next year, April 13th and 14th, and actually joining together with more of you to make it even bigger and better. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And actually, to add to that, so Cheryl and I were actually at a sports conference trying to recruit tournaments to come to the area a few months ago. And because of the Rock and Road Festival and the crit race that happened here, a nationally ranked organization for national races was very interested in coming here because we had already been a test market for races they like to bring to communities like ours. So it all comes full circle back to tourism, back to economic impact, and bringing in more revenue to this community. So thank you, Chris. I'd like to call our other panelists up to the table, and while they're coming, I will read a little bit about each one of them. Amy Brown is with Doc Brown Farm and Distillers, and she comes from a big family with a long farming heritage and has had a successful career as a mortgage investment banker, raising 2 sons who have now gifted her with 6 grandchildren. But she traded in her suits and heels for jeans and boots and manages the farm full-time now. The Doc Brown Farm is a family legacy passed down to Amy and is keeping the tradition alive. Scott Tyson is with 180 Degree Farm. He has always considered himself to be a garden nerd and has been passionately growing food since 1974. He has a multitude of food experience ranging from running restaurants to R&D for a multi-million-dollar food company, and his passion for food goes deeper than just growing it, but how to make it more nutritious by enhancing the soil. Sammy Wilson is the assistant manager at Chat Bend State Park. She has nearly 4 years of experience working with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, and her skills include natural resource management, public safety, and administration. Sammy graduated from Kennesaw State with a bachelor's in anthropology and a minor in environmental studies. She is most passionate about natural resource management and customer service. Phil LaRue is a native Georgian and an outdoor enthusiast since a young age and has spent many hours hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, and riding horses on his grandparents' 400 acres outside of Greensboro. In 2009, he attended the inaugural planning meeting for the Friends of Chat Bend State Park and immediately began volunteering. He was elected to the board in 2016, elected president in 2018, and it's a position he still holds. So I guess you didn't realize it was a lifetime appointment, did you? They're just never going to let you go. Retiring in 2018 from a 36-year career with the Air Force and Air Force Reserve, Phil now has the ability to devote more time to volunteering with the Friends and being in the outdoors. He's assisted with several programs at Chat Bend, including Junior Ranger Camp, First Day Hikes, and teaching Geocaching 101. He leads the popular hike and paddle program hosted by the Friends, and additionally in 2001, he and his late wife became charter members of the Newnan Hiking Club, and he continues to lead the group in monthly hikes across the state, even to this day, at most of our wonderful state parks, which you were just on one last week, right? Yeah. In 2020, Phil became certified in wildland firefighting and assists the DNR resource management team in conducting prescribed burns on public lands across the state. Typically, if Phil can't help me out with all of my many requests, it's because he's on one of those prescribed burns. Most recently in 2022, Phil was elected to the state board of the Friends of Georgia State Parks and Historic Sites. When he's not volunteering, burning, hiking, or otherwise answering my massive amount of emails, Phil enjoys spending time with his family and passing on his love of the outdoors to his 2 grandsons. Please welcome our panelists. All right, so they don't want to hear me talk, they want to hear you talk. So we'll kick it off with, you just spoke, so we'll just skip you. Amy, we'll start with you. If everyone will just tell a little bit about your organization, business, and what it is you guys do.
Sure. Thank you all so much for having me here on this panelist. I don't feel like I belong, especially with his accolades down there. We are a small farm over in Sonoy, Georgia, and when we moved there from the north side of town, I'm originally from Gwinnett County. The only thing I said I wanted was I needed a farm. And so we bought a farm that was in the Coweta program, which meant that we had to keep our land in that program for the remaining years of the program or buy it out of it. And I said, why don't we just grow some corn? I think a person here asked me, oh, it was Sammy, how'd you get into this? I would love to say that there was this lifelong dream of growing bourbon, but I grew up Baptist. And so, you know, where the wine was real after, and you'd find me in the back rooms drinking what everybody didn't drink. But anyway, so we decided to keep our land in the Coweta program and grow corn and make whiskey and keep it for the family. Well, when we took this beautiful, beautiful red corn that we grow, it's called Jimmy Red. It's a non-genetically modified corn. We do not spray. We cannot spray. It will kill it. To our distiller, he said, how much corn can you grow? This is distilled like no other corn. I said, well, because it's real corn. It's not made in a lab somewhere. So what started off as being a hobby, have a few barrels for our family and friends for Christmas and those backdoor Baptists that would want some, we decided to make it into a business. Why not? Let's just go full force into the most difficult, time-consuming, where bourbon takes a long time to age, so you work hard for years before you even get anything out on the market, heavily regulated by the government. You name it, there's all different types of loops we have to jump through, but we're here. And so our farm is in Sonoy. We're right on the line of Brooks and Sonoy, right before the roundabout, next door to 1,100 acres that Mr. Scarborough owns. And our distillery is a partnership that we have with the Distillery of Modern Art in Chambly. It's one of the coolest art galleries you will ever visit because it has a fabulous still in it. And that's who makes our good bourbon. And then we take our barrels and we have them scattered across the state in rick houses that are aging. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm sure there'll be questions and things like that.
Scott, go for it.
Hi, I'm Scott Tyson. I'm with 180 Degree Farm. We're probably the oldest, which isn't saying much, organic farm in the county. We started the farm a couple of years after my son was diagnosed and recovered from stage 4 neuroblastoma. And when we talk about why we're here, we can just look at statistics. About 2 million people a year get diagnosed, new diagnosis of cancer a year. In Coweta and Fayette counties, it's around 14 to 1,500 every year. It is a growing problem that there's a lot of issues with that are a lot of causes, one of them being food. And in our research throughout the years, we realized, as we were getting through Mason's cancer, that food played the biggest role in his sickness. And so we started the farm with the premise of growing everything as nutrient rich, which all starts with the soil. And of course, the more nutrition you have, the higher the Brix level. Of course, with a cancer patient, the more flavorful a vegetable is, the more that someone's likely to eat it. And that's our premise. We want to grow the most nutrient-dense food that's humanly possible. And we are open to the public. That's the way we generate revenue. We're a nonprofit, yes, but we have to make a profit to be able to feed back into our programs. So we're open Tuesdays and Saturdays from 9:30 to 1. We'd love for you to come out and visit. We're in Sharpsburg, not too far from the 154 Lower Fayetteville intersection. And, love to talk to you more after this if you have any questions. Thanks.
Sammy?
Hi, I am Sammy, and I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about Chattahoochee Bend. I'd like to start by just telling y'all what our mission is. So we want to protect Georgia's natural beauty and historic integrity while providing opportunity to enjoy and learn about our natural resources. So at Chattahoochee Bend, you can do that by hiking and camping or paddling. And so right now we've got up to just over 12 miles of hiking trails where you can see our beautiful, diverse ecosystems where you can walk along the river, or you can walk up at a granite outcrop where there's exposed granite rock you can walk across, and you'll see all the plants and trees and animals that live in both areas. And then we've also got campsites and cottages where you can come and stay and enjoy the natural resources for even longer. So beyond that, we are also now able to provide a concessionaire who can provide kayaking opportunities. Other than when we do our monthly hike and paddles during the summer, you'll be able to shuttle from our park to upriver or downriver and kayak. So on your table, we've got that information. It's with Chattahoochee Outdoors. And I'll let Phil talk some more about other opportunities for you to volunteer at the park and help take care of the park.
Thanks, Sammy, and thanks for having us here today. So I'm with Friends of Chattahoochee Bend, and we're a volunteer organization. Our primary goal is to support, enhance, and maintain the park. And we do that through volunteer hours and volunteer donations and fundraising. And our biggest fundraiser, Sammy mentioned, is our hike and paddle program. We do that monthly. Meet at 8 o'clock in the morning at the park. We transport all your stuff upriver for you, including the kayaks, except for you. You hike 5.5 miles. We have lunch. You get in the boat and you float back down the river 3.5 miles and get out right where you started. So we do that monthly. Check out our website for that. The rest of the time that we're not on the river or hiking up the trail, we're maintaining the park. We recently rebuilt 2 of the platform campsites from the ground up. Totally new framing, totally new decking. They're beautiful out there now. Maintaining the hiking trails. We go out, we maintain the hiking trails. We cut back the brush so that you don't have to hike with the ticks. We cut the trees up so you don't have to scramble over the trees. We put up new trailblazers so you know you're on the right trail and you're not getting lost. And that's what we do. Enhance, maintain, and support the park.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we'll just jump straight in. So, Amy, you are the only seed to still distillery in Georgia.
That is correct.
And you were the only one in the U.S., if I'm not mistaken, that everything is done in Georgia and is Georgia grown.
That is correct.
Why is that so unique in your field? And why was it important to you to tell that story?
Well, I think it's important, as Scott right here talked about, no matter if you have a vegetable, a corn, a starch, whatever, that you understand its origin, where it comes from, what's in it. And for us, it was important that we give back to the earth as much as it gives back to them. We are sustainable, responsible farmers. And so when we started this, we knew that we did not want to use chemicals. Paige Dockweiler, one of the doc of the Doc Brown, is a cancer specialist. That's her full-time career. So we knew the importance of making what we do very clean, very organic, even though we're not certified that. And so we started looking into what is it that will set us apart and make us different. And growing the grains, grinding them up into this consistency, which is a little bit like grits, a little bit like cornmeal, distilling it, barreling it in barrels that are made in Georgia. There's only one cooperage in Georgia. It's called the Gainesville Cooperage. They make the barrels for Chateau Elan. They make the barrels for different people. They make our barrels. So everything we do from start to finish, our grains, we have 2 local farmers, Carl McKnight and David Stanford, that grows our grains, our rye and our wheat. We grow the corn. So everything we do is contained really within like a 50-mile radius of our farm. We're the only ones in the United States that we can find, there's probably somebody else out there that does it, but where the cooperage, the farm, the distillery, the water, everything that goes into it is right here in the state of Georgia. And so to us, that was extremely important. I'm a 5th-generation Georgia person. My family hit the land in 1816. So it's important that we give back to our great state that has given so much to us.
Thank you. Scott, your origin story continues to be so powerful to me, but would you elaborate a little bit more on the talks that you give and how when to pick your food is equally as important as the soil and what you're growing?
Yeah, so we started, I think, maybe in 2013, speaking. Mainly, we started working with CTCA, where I was speaking about food awareness nutrition. And really just trying to help cancer patients understand the dangers of the food system, the current food system that we have. That not everything that you hear in marketing is actually a good thing. I could tell you right now that this tablecloth is natural, but would you want to eat it, right? I mean, probably not. It's also gluten-free, so just FYI. But, you know, when you have real whole foods, fermented foods, things of that nature, you're adding complex nutrition to your body that your organs need, your skin needs, you know, every process that happens in your body needs nutrition. And when those things fail and we eat a lot of processed foods, we tend to overwork our pancreas. A lot of the food has just gone to waste or it's stored as fat. And, you know, we are in this dilemma. And, you know, in sports, they say statistics don't lie. Well, the same thing for health. So we see this rising problem with cancer, and no one takes it seriously until you have an issue or your spouse or your child has an issue. And when we first started, people were like, what are you guys doing? This is, you know, we were kind of, you know, we knew we wanted to do something with this farm, and how we had an outreach to cancer patients. And this food fight program we have now kind of, you know, is like the 3-legged stool, right? So you have the outreach or the teaching part of that, the farm, which is the food awareness nutrition. Now my future daughter-in-law is a dietitian. She's taking over the nutritional part of that for me, so I can talk about the food awareness. And then we have the growing part, which is really important. We talk about bricks. What does bricks really mean? When it comes to vegetables, and when vegetables are satiated, they store sugar. And when vegetables store sugar, they're more nutrient dense. That's a way to tell. And so the geekness that I have in me is, you know, testing these vegetables at certain times. Now, Georgia, I will tell you, is a struggle at times. Because we have so many fluctuations of temperature that heat stress can also pull away from, you know, your bricks reading. But our goal is to make sure that everything that comes from the soil is at peak. We harvest the day before we put it in the market, which is crazy, right? But that's what gives it its nutritional value and flavor. It's not sitting on a shelf for 2 or 3 weeks waiting for somebody to get it, which a lot of the vegetables lose 30% of their nutritional value daily, right? It's compounded. So it's 30% of whatever's left every single day. Whereas when you come on a Tuesday or Saturday morning, you don't have to worry about that. As long as you eat it and you don't leave it in your refrigerator, right? So for us, you know, it is, farming is very difficult. It's very difficult. And if we continue to put an emphasis on the importance of growing, not only in this county but in this country, and producing our growing up children who want to be farmers. We're going to rely heavily on other countries, and our cancer rates are going to go crazy, because if you think we have regulation and we're vetting it, which is suspect at times, think about other countries and what comes in here. So there's a lot to it, but we are doing everything that we can, humanly possible, as a small nonprofit, to curtail as much of this pain as we can through nutrition.
And now you've created, or you've grown some, is it citrus things here that normally shouldn't grow in Georgia? You've kind of tested some things out?
Yeah, so now we have a citrus house. We're getting ready to expand that a little bit more. So we grow Meyer lemons, we grow finger limes. Finger limes are unique because they're delicious, but they're like citrus caviar. More vitamin C and vitamin E than an orange. I mean, they look like mini cucumbers, but they're fantastic. But we do yuzu, sudachi, sumo citrus, key limes, and granted, we produce a lot of lemons. The other one's not quite as much yet, but we are adding to that because there's such a demand for it. And I will tell you, if you've never had a fresh picked lemon before, I'm not talking about the grocery stores that have been sitting there, and just waiting for somebody to buy them for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. Freshly picked, there's nothing like it. And citrus season starts sometime in November, so make sure you come out and try it.
Awesome. So Sammy and Phil, we recently did a video shoot out there, which you guys helped us out with. Tell us a little bit more about the accessibility options that are actually within the park, as well as the different types of campsites that are available.
So I'll start with our campsites, and then talk more about our ADA accessible options. But we have 4 different kind of campgrounds. First, we've got RV camping, and then we've got a tent camping sites. So those are kind of interchangeable, but then we've also got more primitive sites. There are platform sites that are near the river, to give you more of a closer look. It's not on the river, but pretty close. And then we've also got our 5-mile backpack campsites. So you go all the way down the Riverside Trail and camp in our backcountry sites. And then each of our sites, in the RV campsites and our tent sites, there are ADA accessible sites. So they have different fire rings, different tables, and then access to restrooms that are accessible. And then right now we're in the process of hopefully soon opening our new trail that's been built. And it's going to be ADA accessible up to 0.9 miles. So that's really exciting. It'll be a multi-use trail, and so it's non-motorized, but you can bike or walk on it. And it's paved, and it'll go along it'll have granite outcropping on the sides and these giant granite boulders. It's really cool to see.
But people cannot climb those.
Can't climb the boulders.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Please don't go bouldering. We're not going to do that.
Too far out to boulder.
Awesome. And now, future plans for the park. I know you guys are going to build more cabins as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Sure.
So we actually just yesterday had a meeting about our new cabins. So they're actually going to start the construction in July, and it's estimated to take about a year. So we'll have 5 new cabins, but starting with 3. So 3 hopefully will be done in the next year. The third one is going to be ADA accessible, and it'll have 3 rooms. So we're really excited about that. It'll be a little bigger, and yeah.
Yeah, if you guys have not seen these cabins, they're phenomenal. Absolutely beautiful. 2-bedroom, all of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
they sleep 8.
Yes. Full kitchen, living room. You have a patio with a fire pit. They're actually extremely nice, and $175 a night.
$175 a night.
Yeah. So,
Really awesome sunset views.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Scott and Amy, you both run family businesses. So, I'm sure you have a lot of stories. But tell us what working with family has made your business successful and what you love most about it, or even if you have some cringeworthy stories, I'm sure we'd listen.
I think for us, starting with family, building that our foundation as with the four of us, my youngest son and my oldest son, we pulled them out of Trinity when we started the farm because we were then poor. And so they were going to Trinity for a while, and then we pulled them out. They were homeschooled, so they were kind of given chores and responsibilities alongside of their homeschooling, which really just drew them into this lifestyle that was really unique in this day and time, right? And my wife and I have an experience with our boys we did. I mean, my oldest son still works there. My youngest son works at Blackberry Farm in Tennessee now as a chef. But we had this experience with our kids growing up that was, amazing, because we really got to know them on a lot of different levels. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good, right? When you're working with your children, it can be sometimes a struggle. But I do feel that we raised two really strong young men who really had an entrepreneurial spirit, which is great. But I think the other part of that, too, is that, as customers would come in, or cancer patients, right, would come into the farm, they get used to seeing this stability. And I think that is part of this family dynamic, is stability of a business. People get used to seeing that, and they develop relationships, and they want to keep coming back. Of course, Mason's story drew in a lot of other people from all over the country, believe it or not, because CTCA would bring people in from all over the country. They would come from the farm, and then it just became, we had a few stories. People would drive down just to be here, which goes back to the story that you brought up before about, revenue. It's not nearly as much as $200,000, but people would come to the farm, and there's this, I think, dynamic that we want to continue building on, even as we hire people, that our family is still running. My oldest son is transitioning to run the farm. So as I retire and my wife retires, we're going to be employees and individual contributors, and helping him and my son, down the road. But this family dynamic is pretty amazing. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Well, to add to that, my 11-year-old grandson can actually pick out the notes of bourbon better than I can. So, and they go to Trinity. And when I go to Grandparents' Day, they're like, so he tastes bourbon? And I'm like, well, it's a family business. I mean, so yeah, he can pick out the notes way better than I can. I give them note cards when we get a new mash bill, and I'm like, okay, don't tell nobody. Well, they're 11,
So, of course, they tell everybody.
6, and 5, and their teachers know. Working with your family is fabulous and frightening at the same time. We have boundaries, and we early on set those boundaries. My oldest son is one of my business partners. And when we have our business meetings, because there's always more bills than revenue most when you're early on, and like you said, when you're poor, we picked a business that will see the revenue in 15 years, and so we have to spend money. But we made a pact up front, all three of us. When we're business partners, and we will take care. We will not drag it into the family time. That is our time. That is, I'm Granny, and I'm your mother, and I have 2 fabulous daughter-in-laws, and I don't want anything that we might do out on the farm, cuss at each other or anything like that, to be brought to the dinner table. Let's sit there and act like we didn't just say that. And so far it's worked.
So what happens on the farm stays on the farm?
What happens on the farm stays on the farm.
Gotcha. Chris, earlier you spoke a lot about the importance of outdoor recreation to not only the community, but it also impacts quality of life. It creates an economic impact. How do you see Coweta embracing these trends, and what can residents here do to support more of those efforts?
So I always like to make the point in, you know, 3 years or so ago when we were going through the COVID crisis. Browns Mill, which is one of our local parks, was a sleepy little park about 3.5 miles, 4 miles south of downtown Newnan. We had advocated for and built trails down there, shared use trails for hiking and biking. They had a certain number of trails, but do you not realize that when COVID hit, Browns Mill actually became Coweta County's most popular park? And I say that, and perhaps you're like me, a lot of us during that year or two of reflection and reflecting on what's most important and what's not so much so important as I thought it was and that sort of thing. You know, for a lot of folks, they realize that getting out on a trail out in the middle of the woods, and some perhaps for the first time, they couldn't go to the Little League field and play. For a lot of folks, it was a moment of reflection of actually figuring out not only what was most important, but realizing that, you know what, I've gotten away from this thing called nature. I've gotten away from this thing of going out and picking my own strawberries. I've gotten away from so many of these things that a certain number of us certainly appreciate that today. But Browns Mill was a great example during that period of time. I wouldn't say it was COVID proof, but we saw that all over Atlanta and the other parks that I'm do work in, where they were just overrun with folks needing to get out of the house, needing to get out in the woods, needing to get out and actually enjoy nature. Perhaps some of it was kids and families that had never been out in the woods. And I'm not focusing just on bicycles here. I'm just focusing on being out in the middle of the woods where you didn't hear all the chatter of everything that was going on. So we know from the Georgia coast, Savannah, Brunswick, to the mountains, Ellijay, Blue Ridge, Clayton, and everywhere in between. Phil mentioned Cloudland Canyon. That's way up in the corner up there. But we know there's a huge appetite for outdoor recreation for some of those same reasons I just mentioned. Forget COVID. It's just there's a huge appetite for outdoor recreation and just getting out in the woods and getting away from the rat race. In fact, and I don't have the number in front of me, but the amount of people spend on fly fishing and kayaking and hiking and mountain bikes and all these other things across the state of Georgia, it's a $1 billion industry. We just don't necessarily all get together and hold hands and compare numbers, but it is an industry that is up there with logistics and the darling of the state, the film industry. It's up there with these other industries. And obviously, like I said, what we found during COVID, it was a little bit COVID-proof too. People were still able to get out and stay 6 feet apart, right? So to me, that's such a huge opportunity, not only for our state. I'll mention two little things about that. There is a state-level advocacy effort going on, and actually a bill or two that was actually before the state legislature last year or so to open up what is called a Georgia Office of Outdoor Recreation, which would actually be an organization that really got together with all the different on a local level as well as a state level, really kind of get where we got our act together and we actually started marketing the state as somewhere you wanted to come and enjoy the state for all its natural resources. And there's 17 states across the country that actually have an office like that, and they're getting on the ball of all things outdoor recreation as a tourism and as an industry. So that's something that's exciting on a local level. And what I would encourage you to do, we're coming up on an opportunity for this. Is there are opportunities. we hear about all the development and all the things that are coming to town and all the great things that are coming to generate jobs and that sort of thing. Outdoor recreation in the state of Georgia generates about 200,000 jobs, or creates. What we don't hear a lot of talk about in Coweta County, though, is the perhaps promoting more agritourism and opportunities, promoting more conservation of green space, to lock it down, to say we're going to lock down a couple of 100 acres here and actually not only preserve it for locals for the future, just to get out in passive green space and enjoy, but we're going to lock it down because there's people that might want to come from outside the county and enjoy this too. So I mentioned those things. We have a opportunity that's coming up not only with our Link Greenway that is in Newnan, but also for this could have an impact on several hundred new acres at Browns Mill, as well as some other green space type opportunities. But those projects, the expansion of those projects, the expansion of that green space will depend on, and I'm independent of anybody in here, and so I can say they will depend on funding that comes through SPLOST. So you may be on one side or the other about SPLOST and what it goes for, but there are two big, really cool outdoor recreational opportunities. The link as it is today, 5 to 6 miles of it was actually funded with SPLOST dollars. So you may feel one way or another about it, but I'm just letting you know what it takes to actually pay for some of these things. And the opportunity will to actually vote for SPLOST is about 4 or 5 months away. So if you want to talk about it more, we can talk about it separately. So.
Offline? Yeah. Oh, that's real. Yeah. All right, so a couple more questions. Scott, tell us more about the Alternative Breaks program that you guys have and how you partner with local hotels on that.
It's actually a pretty cool program. So the Alternative Breaks, if you're not familiar with it from a college standpoint, is this is set up where colleges can be a part of a program that gives back to communities. Usually it's not the community they're in. They usually travel so that the kids have an experience outside of the community they live in. So we bring in, the furthest one we brought in the state a little over a week was University of California, San Diego. But we have relationships with the University of Florida, Auburn University, Central Michigan University, Michigan State University. We've done something with the University of Georgia, which was very fun. I'm a Dogs fan, so that's always good. But they come in. They usually spend a week. They bring around 14 kids. They work on the farm and really get us ahead. If you can imagine, not everybody's clamoring to work on a farm. Farming is hard work, so you have to have a special type of person who wants to be outdoors and is willing to sweat a little bit. And but there are a lot of tangible things that you see happen in a farm that are rewarding. And when these kids come, they see these things. They see the connection we have with not only agriculture but with our cancer patients and with our customers. So there is an amazing situation there that has happened. We have, I can't remember all the hotels we have relationships with, but a lot of them are in Ashley Park. And they donate usually the week for these students to come in. And so usually donate 4 rooms, so the kids will stay 3 or 4 to a room. It's usually 80 to 20 women to men. So usually isn't a problem, and so it's a very generous place for our students to stay, and they're being taken care of while they're at the farm. But these aren't the typical kids that you would see going on a spring break to Florida. These kids have a heart for a passion for what we do, and they deliberately sign up for individual programs. So they do a lot of research on us before they even make the trip down. And I'm sure their parents do too. But when they make it down, it is actually extremely rewarding. It's a lot more work for my wife and I now. We're getting past 50. Well, I'm past 50. She's not. And so trying to keep up with 18 to 21-year-olds has gotten harder and harder every year because we want to work with them and get to know them while they're here. And it's just a very rewarding experience all the way around. but very productive for us.
Awesome. Thank you. Sammy and Phil, Chat Bend is one of the newest state parks in Georgia. How many visitors do you guys see annually? Do you know, roundabout? Thousands?
Thousands. I'm not sure how many thousands.
And aside from volunteering with friends, are there any other ways that the community could get more involved with Chat Bend or anything else you want them to know about programs out there?
Yes, I did want to mention we do have programming. We have a park naturalist who plans hikes and campfires and arts and crafts and other stuff for you to do at the park and learn about nature and pollinators and plants and really anything you'd be interested in. We'd love to hear any ideas. If there was something you wanted to come and do, we would set it up for you. Any age can come and request a program. You just email us. It's on our website, our park naturalist email. If you go to programs, you click on that, or you can tell me today and I'll write it down. But yeah, so we actually have just a ducky race. It's an annual ducky race that's happening this Saturday. So you just pay $1 and then you get to go and watch the ducks go down the creek and maybe win a prize at the end. So really just fun stuff we do sometimes. We also have an astronomy program coming up on July 7th. So you can come and look through a telescope and look. Actually, it's going to be partially during the day. So you might get to see a sunspot. You'll look for Venus. So you get to actually look at the sun, which is a little strange, but yeah, so we got lots of programming ideas and stuff coming up. So you can find out all about that on our website or on Facebook. And, and our hike and paddles. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the hike and paddle. And one thing about the astronomy program, I wanted to tag team on here. The astronomy program is being led by an astronomer he's a doctor of astronomy. He teaches at the University of Hawaii, and he designed some of the instruments that are on the James Webb Space Telescope. So this guy is not an amateur astronomer. He built his first telescope when he was 12 years old and got his doctorate from the University of Heidelberg in Germany. And so he knows what he's doing, folks. He's very, very good at what he does. So come on out and enjoy that astronomy program. And the hike and paddle I mentioned earlier, we do those monthly, but if you have a group that wants to come out and do a special hike and paddle program with us, or just a paddle, we can set it up where it's just a paddle program. Contact us through our website, through Facebook, either one, or call the park and give them your name and number, and we'll call you back. The hike, like I said, it's 5.5 miles. It's mostly flat. It's along the river for the first 2 miles, and then it has a little bit of uphill for about the next half mile, and then it's just gently rolling hills after that up to the 5.5 mile mark. We stop several times. It takes about 3.5 hours to do that hike. So it's not a forced march from the military standpoint. It's we hike in, we stop a half mile in and talk about some things, and then we stop a mile in at the observation tower and talk about some things, and then we stop at 2 miles, and 2.5 miles is a water break, and we have fresh fruit for you to enjoy. And it's an easy hike, and once you get on the river, it's an easy paddle. You don't have to paddle at all unless you just want to steer your boat. You can just go in circles if you want to. It's very relaxing on the river. We actually had one gentleman one time. I looked over at him and he jerked awake. He had fallen asleep on the river in his kayak, and just was about ready to go over. The river is that relaxing, and it's been proven medically that walking in the woods actually lowers your blood pressure, changes your brainwave patterns, relaxes you. And I feel it every time I'm out there. I've got one of my volunteers. His name's Eddie. We call him Fast Eddie because everything's done at 100 miles an hour. He volunteers out there, and I asked him why he's out there so much, and he said because it soothes his soul. So come out there, enjoy a hike and paddle with us, and soothe your soul.
Awesome. Well, finally, Amy, you have quite a bit for in the works and in the future for Doc Brown. Can we expect bourbon tastings anytime soon? Just asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Well, actually, I have some tastings for y'all today of our bourbon creams. So we kept having people ask us, when are you going to put a product out? When are you going to put a product out? And so we have a consultant out of Texas, and I called Joe, and I'm like, listen, we need to put something out. I mean, people are asking. So we decided to do what Buffalo Trace does and do some creams. They're going to give y'all some samples here in a minute.
You have little glasses at your table, so if you're interested, just
If you're
grab one
interested,
and hold
just-
it out, and
yeah.
they'll come pour them.
2 or 3 or 4. But October 1st, we are rolling out our very first 2 barrels of bourbon that we ever made. And we're having a big event up in Atlanta at our distillery, and it's on our website. And you have to have a reservation. We're not charging for this, but we got to know how much food to buy and provide. But the Distillery of Modern Art is an art gallery with a distillery in it. My dad, my brother are artists, and so their art is going to be on display. We've got, my first cousin is a lead singer in an ABBA cover band. They sell out all over the nation. She called and said, hey, would you like for us to perform at your event? And I said, I would love that, but, you know, I'm on a budget. And she's like, we got this. So we've got a big day planned. It's October 1st. It's on a Sunday. And I know it's on a Sunday. A lot of people are like, you know, that's on a Sunday. And I'm like, I know. Georgia football takes precedence in October, as well as weddings. For about 8 years, my business partner and I owned a wedding venue in South Georgia. October, I could have sold 20 Octobers. So I knew what I was up against, so we made it a Sunday afternoon, and so that you can have your church and worship time, your family time, and then come see us and have a little bit of bourbon. And that we will be rolling out our very first 2 barrels that were supposed to be ours for the family. And that will be there along with some other cool things. So we leased 100 acres across the way from us. So we grow corn on our farm where we live. And then we lease 100 acres across the way, catty corner from us. We have to go down the road just a little bit. And so we're expanding our crops. This year we hope to put up anywhere between 60 and 80 barrels of bourbon. That's a lot. That's a lot of corn. Like he said, farming's hard. Most days if you saw me out, you would think you would throw me $1 or $2. I look homeless. And I do that on purpose. So, no. Sometimes I'll say, Mom, don't wear your shirt out looking like that. We don't want people to know you're Doc Brown Farm and Distillers. I'm like, I gotta go to the grocery store. So we are appointment only. We are not agritourism yet because we live there, and we just don't want y'all showing up, knocking on the door, and seeing me homeless looking. So, but we would love for you to come see us. Just email us. Everything's on the website. Social media, I am the social media expert, y'all. I'm 58 years old, and sometimes I put stuff out and have to take it down. And so I'm like, I need to hire this done, but again, I'm on a limited budget. So follow us, everything we do, good, bad, and ugly, we're going to tell you about it, because there are some great days, there are some bad days, and there are some ugly days when you're a farmer. But I will say this, and I know I joke about it, I'm so impressed with what he's doing. Farming in 1950s, I think it was like 20% of the population were farmers. I probably have that all wrong, and I'm so sorry, but it was a lot. Do you realize that only 2% of our population in the United States of America are farmers? The average age is 58. I'm 58. So the average age of farmers is 58 years old. We are losing the largest, number one industry in our state. We're losing it. And we got to bring it back. We've got to. And you can do it by supporting local farms, by supporting local farmers, by just cheering them on. Sometimes a smile and a handshake and a hey, I like what you're doing goes a long way when you're out in the hot, sweltering sun and you're working and you're doing everything you know to do. So support farmers everywhere. I don't know about you, but I don't want my food coming from other places. I want it coming from people like Scott that I know that's putting his heart and soul into it. I want my bourbon coming from my corn that I know that I've grown as clean and as naturally and as good as and given back to the soil as I possibly can. So whether it's us or whether, I think you would agree, anybody else out there, support the young men and the women who encourage your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your family members, even if it's just a small garden in the backyard. Teach them. Teach them how to grow a tomato plant. Teach them how to go out and pick wild blackberries and make a blackberry cobbler. And those things, we're losing it, and it's so sad. And that's part of the reason why I decided to come out of retirement to do something like this, because it's important to me that a footprint that I leave behind for 6 little grandchildren that I get to call mine, I want them to know that I'm going to make a positive impact on this earth and giving back to the soil and what we have. So thank
Do you
you.
want to tell them about the bourbon creams? I think they're behind you.
Yeah, are they behind me? Yeah.
I thought those were mine.
Are those yours? So if you want a flavor of what we're doing, we have 3 flavors. We have peppermint mocha. This tastes like a little Andes mint that you used to get at the pizzeria when you paid your bill. We took that, melted it down, and added a little bit of bourbon to it. Butter pecan, because we are in the South. And our farm down in South Georgia that was the wedding venue was a 100-acre pecan farm. So I know a lot about pecans or pecans. If you go below Macon, it's pecans, but it's pecan. And then you can't start any day off without a fresh cup of coffee. And so this is, I pour a little bit in my coffee every morning. I did before I came here. So that may be what the problem is today. So if you want to taste, they're going to help. You can have one of all 3. You can have one of one or just none of none. It doesn't matter to me, but it is delicious in my opinion. People ask me what's my favorite, and it just depends on my mood. So most days I drink them all. So, because I'm in all the moods. This one, this peppermint mocha, the holidays, we couldn't keep it on the shelf. So we rolled these out last October of last year. And within 38 days, we sold over 500 cases. And we sold out. And so now we're having to do more, which is awesome. But at the holidays, this tastes like Christmas in a glass. So anyway, if you want some, these are sweet people, and they've said they would help me. And if you don't like it, don't tell me. Let me leave here with a good feeling about y'all.
Well, apparently they're all going to leave with good feelings after this. All right, so we'll open it up for just quick questions while this gets passed around. Just raise your hand if you want 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the bourbon creams. But any questions anyone has?
Thank you. On my website. So, could you pull that up or no? Could you pull? Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, on my on our website, if you'll go where it says visit our shop, I have one that I just designed that says Farm Fresh Bourbon. And I wore it yesterday to go do something, and I had like 5 people stop me and like, where can I get Farm Fresh Bourbon? So, but this is my favorite one because this is how my life is. So, yes.
Any other questions?
Scott, she has this question.
Hi, I met you in 2013 when you were just starting, and you also had chickens and ducks and goats, if I recall correctly. Are you still doing the milking with the goats and selling that, and the duck eggs and the chickens?
We are we have chickens and we have ducks, so we are getting out of the duck egg business because of the economics of duck eggs. Duck eggs they're wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful. They're my favorite.
good.
The problem with duck eggs is that it takes a lot of labor to clean the duck eggs, and Ducks are unusual in that they just will lay an egg wherever they feel like it. They don't go to a nest box, so they just will plop wherever. Sometimes in the mud, sometimes it's in between two rocks, and it's challenging. We didn't do goats, but we did pasture raised sheep or lamb. And what we were challenged with the acreage that we had was we had more and more cancer patients coming to the farm every year that needed help, and we were running out. We didn't have enough growing space, so as we kept creating fields, we encroached on the pasture that the sheep had, and so we finally had to get out of the sheep business because we had so much demand for the vegetables. So we still do chicken eggs. We partner with another farm for beef, and we do our vegetables, seasonal fruits, things of that nature. And then we do yogurt too. We partner with another farm who does yogurt, so it's absolutely outstanding. We have a golden yogurt which uses our turmeric and ginger, and it's sweetened with honey, and it's got black pepper to activate the curcumins. Wonderful. It's kind of a take on the golden milk, and then we do an unflavored yogurt. But just all the products and the vegetables are just fantastic. But nice to see you again.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, actually for Amy, if I'm not mistaken, you made the statement that you ship the barrels out across Georgia to be cured, right? I know that's not the correct term. Right. Do you plan on doing that at your facility in the future? That's our plan, is to build something on the farm, but we just need a lot of people to let us know that we can do that. But to store barrels, you have to have it in a rick house. So part of the aging of bourbon, we need 4 seasons. You need the winter months, it constricts the wood, and then the summer months, it brings it out like an accordion. That's how bourbon gets its flavor and its color and its notes. So we have to have actually just an open barn, but with the TTB and the ATF and all that, you have to have so much security around it and all of that. And so we're trying to figure that out. So we have a couple of rick houses right now where our barrels are stored the way they store them up in Kentucky, and open in barns that have that hot summers right now this weekend, and then the cold winters. And that accordion is what makes the bourbon its flavor.
And the second question that I have is, what do y'all do with your barrels after the fact? Because I know some distilleries will send them out for other companies.
Yes.
Like Dickel will do it for Johnny Walker.
Yes. So right now, Line Creek has some of our barrels, and they are aging some of their stouts and some of their barley wines in them. And so we will continue to work with winemakers and with beer things. We have bees on the farm. I'm going to actually take one of our barrels, and I'm going to age some honey in it and do some of that. And you didn't ask this question, but I do think it's important. So when you have spent grains, so this gets wet, we distill it, it makes our bourbon, and you have what's called spent grains or spent mash. We actually pay for a truck to come into the distillery, grab our grains, and take them to local cattle farms for free. So we feel like it's full circle, and that's a way that we give back to the farmers, is that we have some Wagyu beef farmers that are using our spent grains, and the dollar's on us, but we feel like that's important to us instead of just letting it lay and go into waste. You're welcome.
All right. Valerie, do we have the bowl with the business card so we can do the drawing for the flowers? Where is she? Where is it? So, Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about the flowers in your flower farm?
Yes. Hello. Okay. So the flowers, we have a 180-degree flower farm, which my wife runs at actually on the farm. And she put together a table arrangement for today, but you can pick up fresh bouquets every Tuesday and Saturday while we're open from 9:30 to 1. So she does a wonderful job, but the flowers are absolutely fantastic when we're walking through the flower field. It's a happy place for sure. But you can also see what's going on with the farm if you link up to our Facebook page, 180 Degree Farm, or Instagram, the 180 Degree Farm or the 180 Flower Farm, 2 different pages. So love to see you there on Saturday or on Tuesdays. Come by and see us.
And there are lots of giveaways on your table as well. Everything from swag from us to, I know they put a lot of collateral, so definitely make sure to take it. And oh, okay. So the first, the flowers go to Liz Woodruff. Great. What other drawings do we have? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, we can.
Did you have a drawing? Did you want to draw anything? I did not. Oh, okay. No, I think you've made everyone happy. Okay. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So we have 2 other items to draw for. Our friends over at Dragonfly Running Club. We've got a $25 gift card as well as some other little goodies in here for Vernon Strickland. There you go. We have one more that Atlanta Trek. Atlanta Trek. In fact, this is a special day because the only way to have gotten a Tour of Coweta t-shirt 2 months ago was to have rode your bike for 100 miles, but you're going to get it for nothing. But Atlanta Trek actually provided a water bottle and a $25 gift card and a well-earned t-shirt to, I don't have my glasses. Is that Ashley?
Ashley Anderson.
Ashley Anderson. Okay.
Oh, okay. We're drawing more?
More? Yeah.
2 more things. All right. Sammy, do you want to talk about it, what we're drawing for? Just use your mic.
Can y'all hear me? Oh, it's a bandana and a first aid kit or flashlight and a sticker. So there's 2.
Okay. So we're drawing for the bandana first and the first aid kit?
Like they get
Oh, you get
the
2
whole
each.
thing, yeah,
Gotcha. Okay. Corey Nordland.
Woo.
And one more, Charlotte Newsom. All right, and a huge round of applause for our panelists. Thank you today. So just to sort of bring it full circle, the ecosystem of tourism in this community is so important, and just to sort of bring it all home, from farms that supply produce to local restaurants or even markets that a business traveler goes and buys from because they want to cook rather than go out to eat, to a local distiller who can now supply a local store. It can then be bought by a camper who is going to use it as a fireside chat while they're at Chat Bend. So they are all important in that ecosystem of tourism and to every job that we do. So yes, initially I always advocate for heads in beds, but without partners like this, it doesn't improve our quality of life here. It doesn't make for happy brand ambassadors, and it doesn't make for a good community. So when we have all these things in place, we have an amazing product to sell here. So thank you.
I told you this would be fun, right? I've had more fun watching them doing the taste testing. Y'all are hilarious. And it's great to know they're going to go back a little happier to work this afternoon than maybe you arrived, right? So thank you for coming. I have just a couple of announcements, and Claire has a little gift for each of you, and I apologize in advance. It is not gluten-free. It's not soy-free. It's not sugar-free. Dairy-free, but hopefully you'll enjoy it, right? You can have it with your coffee in the morning, right? This is one of our members, Nothing But Cakes, if you haven't ordered from them before. So real quick, couple of announcements. So everybody's familiar with the grant that we received, the ARPA grant, last year. And so we've been working on the Small Business Digital Aid Program. Phil Turkey is the project manager. If that is something that you are interested in, or you know somebody that could benefit from that, highly encourage you to give us a call, and we'll connect you to Phil Tricky. You can get a grant anywhere from $2,500 up to $18,000 for all of your digital needs. So please, if you're interested, let us know. We also have a new program that is starting called Work Up Coweta, and we're going to look for your emails so you can learn a little bit about that and how you can be involved. Okay, so we did our first Catalyst lunch. You were there, Will? What was that? 2 weeks ago, maybe? It was great. It was the university president, Dr. Kelly. And yes, thank you, Bob Brown. You have a new best friend from that event, don't you? Yes. So every second Wednesday of the month, except for July. So in August, we will have our Sheriff Lynn Wood will be our little speaker. It's not a speaker, it's a casual format. It's an interview-style lunch. Randy, you were there. If you would like to hear from Sheriff Wood, he's an interesting person. I would encourage you to come. And then we have, if you like to bowl, on August 24th, we have our annual bowling adventure. And the theme this year is the 40s and the 50s, the golden age of bowling. So just think that when you put your costume on for the day. And then the very last announcement is something I'm super excited about this, you guys. If you have this on your card, take it with you. Some of you have gotten these in the mail. You've received calendar invites. Chris is very much involved in this program with us on the marketing and social media side. You heard them talk about the wonderful works that they are doing to make our community unique, to bring awareness to just cool stuff in Coweta, right? A lot of this stuff just doesn't happen by accident. And, this is a much harder world than perhaps it was 100 years ago, and a lot of challenges. So we want this community to have an opportunity to have a voice, to get together and figure out what does the future of Coweta need to look like. And, Chris talked about SPLOST and some of these really cool projects that get funded through a mechanism like that. There's just so many parts of our community where being civic-minded and being a part of a process to help define whatever that future is very important. And so on August 30th at Forward Coweta, yes, you are going to learn about the buffalo. But you're also going to hear from some storytellers who are going to talk about their communities and what they did in fast growth communities to collaborate and bring leaders together and bring all types of citizens together to focus on the future of their communities. So if you like storytelling, it's a great place to be. I would encourage you to go ahead and get signed up. You can go to the Chamber website and click on the buffalo, and it'll take you to the registration page. And we hope to see you there on August the 30th. It's at the Newnan Center. Just mark off your day. We're going to feed you. We're going to entertain you. You're going to learn a lot. We hope that you guys will be with us because you are such an important part of the fiber of this community. And I think it goes without saying how incredibly blessed we are to live in this community. And people like Randy, who just recently moved here and decided, I jokingly say you came to the dark side, or you discovered us, right? But you've all learned something today, I hope, right? And you'll want to get out there and experience some of the wonderful activities. I'm happy to know that there is a portion of the Chattahoochee that you can kayak on without your life being in danger. Chris took me kayaking back last fall, and he said he wouldn't take me on the Chattahoochee because he thought I might die. So we went to B.T. Brown, which was lovely if you haven't been there. But there is a lot of outdoor stuff to do in Coweta County. So please get out there and be a part of the process. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for blessing us with your company. And unless there are some announcements that anybody has, anybody? Okay. Well, then you guys maybe can have another drink before you leave and enjoy your day.